Okay, everybody. I'm in here waiting for a visual for myself. Glad if you're here to join me. Well, I'm here. It is about 7:03 p.m. So much has been going on today. Today is one of my friends having a birthday. I think he turned 69 today, or maybe 69 or maybe 68. Anyway, greetings everybody here. My grace is your grace. I'm Brother Francis E. Revels-Bey, the founder of the Circle of Grace One, founded, actually established way back in 1974. And from that time on, from 1974, it took quite some time, about 25 years, and I decided to seed it uh, so it's more plain and not just a thought on July 2nd of 1999. So it's actually been out 48 years. And this has been a blessing all to itself to be able to present ideas live to other people. So whoever happens to hear this live, you can always take the link and share it with friends. Or if you have some difficulty sharing it, because I have it set up a certain way where just not anybody can trample on this information as it comes out. I have one more thing I need to get. Now that I'm firmly back in the picture. So, for people that happen to come in tonight, I will be talking about my numerology course that I'm going to be doing from Wednesday night, February the 1st. It'll run for about 18 weeks. It will end on Wednesday evening, uh, which will be May the 31st, 2023. It's going to be, that's 18 weeks, almost like being in college. So you'll be taking a course where there's 12 paid classes and 6 free classes, which are review classes. So for anybody that tunes in and hear this, you might want to hear this beginning information about it. There's an early bird registration fee that goes from January the 2nd, 2023, all the way up to January the 18th of 2023. And you'll save a little over $100. And then from January the 19th through February the 19th, it goes up to the higher price. So if you want to find out about that, you need to email me at iam.circleofgrace1@gmail.com. That's iam.circleofgrace with the number one at the end, just like you see over here, at gmail.com. And you get all that information. Those who start laying out some money to enroll, you'll actually get the full outline, which I think runs about 3 pages typed, something like that. So you'll see what will be taught in order. It's going to be a great time for everybody that's enrolled in the class. You will get a lot of perks. Some of the perks you will get is, first of all, I'm going to be recording it for myself. It's a live video class. So I'm going to keep, of course, the master video. I'm going to send everybody a summary video. Now, only time you'll get the full master video along with the summary video is if you should happen to be in the course already, and you know how life is, life might pop up. We might have certain emergencies that happen, and so you might have to miss a class, maybe further down the line. So I'm not going to leave you out, because if you're paid for the class, you deserve either one or both of those videos. Now, also at the end of the course, there will be some additional audio material that students will receive, short audios and short video material connected to this. And I plan on putting out, I have a short PDF file. I have one right now, and it's on the power of numbers from 1 through 9. So you're going to see the language of numbers laid out differently to you. And then I'm planning some other things to give you all as well. So it's going to be a really exciting numerology course, because it's going to be a time where everybody at some point can interact with me. So I'm the kind of teacher is I don't like teaching a course and you just sit on the other end and can't ask me any questions. Each class is going to be the paid classes, those 12 classes at least will be 90 minutes long. The review classes that are free will be close to 90 minutes, but you'll get a chance to get on there and get this material. So what's going to happen is it's going to be 18 classes in a row once a week on a Wednesday night. And they're going to start, I plan on starting it Wednesday, February the 1st at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, going all the way through February, March, May, June, actually April, May. So it'll take you into Wednesday night, May 31st of 2023. So can you imagine 18 solid consecutive weeks where you're being taught classes based on my book, which you can see up here. The Key to Life is Numerology. You're going to learn in part one how to, look at numbers in a name. So you'll be able to analyze your own name. Maybe you want to, with a permission of a relative, analyze their name. uh, and I should say, if you don't have the book, it's okay, but it'd be best if you purchase this book. You want to go to Amazon.com. That's my name there. Go to Amazon.com, look this book up, and purchase this book from Amazon. So at least you have it as a reference, okay? Because that will be very important to use my book as a reference. Much of the material comes from that book, okay? I'm just going to season it a little bit, and I'm going to make it as simple as possible so you can get the information, comprehend it, and use it right away. Now, usually when I'm teaching classes, I usually extend the class. So meaning that one week you get the lesson, the next week you get the review, then the third week you get the lesson, then the fourth week you get a review. But I've decided not to do it that way because I want to make it more comprehensive and cohesive by putting certain classes right behind each other. That way you pick up on the information even better. So I'm excited. I hope you get excited. Lots of people have asked me when I'm going to do this. And so I've decided to kick it off on February the 1st, 2023 at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Now, a lot of people all over the U.S., some of my clients or new people might say, well, why is it at 7 p.m.? Well, for me, it's 5 p.m. Mountain Time. So for you, least you can get off and get to bed after 8:30 if you want to go to bed early. Spend some time with your family members. So that's why I don't want to start the class very late in the evening like that. I want to make sure people can get it. And I know it'll be an easier time for people in the Pacific Coast or on the West Coast who take this, because for you it's going to be 4 p.m. in the afternoon when it starts, and you'll be off at 5:30 p.m. roughly. Okay, if you're in Mountain Standard Time like I am, Colorado, New Mexico, Utah, and I think a little bit of the Arizona time frame. So Arizona kind of runs the same time, I think, with the Pacific West Coast time. So you want to get this information. Now, people have asked me in the future, will I teach this course again? I might make it a little bit more concise when I teach it a second time around. I might actually just split the course in half, where we just work on the name information at a later time Another time we work on the date of birth. But in this course, I'm supposed to give you the whole thing so that you get all of the information within that 18-week stretch. So that's very important. Now, if you want, again, information about the course, how to sign up, how to register, and get your early bird fee in between January the 2nd and January the 18th, then you need to email me at iam.circleofgrace1 at gmail.com. That's iam.circleofgrace1 at gmail.com. After that, from January 19th to February the 19th, it goes up to the higher rate. So if you want to see what that is, just go to my website, www.circleofgrace with the number one.us, and you're going to see another course pop up. But if you scroll down after the 5 point creative pathwork meditation system class that you see, if you scroll down, you'll run across the course. If you should, you'll see it with the book. If not, you can look under Brother Francis Seeker's page and scroll through there, and that's another way to pick up. So you have that information. Again, if you see this live or in replay mode, many of you may come on in replay mode. So it's okay. You'll have the information. I'll give you the information right here, my email address. Again, iam.circle of grace 1 at gmail.com. So you'll have this information for numerology course and others. Okay, so you'll be able to go in there. Now, there's also a contact page. You can go to the contact page and put a question in there and say you want to get some information. So feel free to go to that website. Now, one of the things about numerology is kind of a fun and fascinating kind of metaphysical topic. For many years, a lot of people in the mainstream would never consider it to be a metaphysical topic. Most people considered astrology, since that's the one that's out there more. Like you open up a newspaper, there's horoscopes, magazine, there are horoscopes, right? So people were seeing that all the time, and they started like seeing that more as a metaphysical topic. Only I say in the past 20, 30 years, 20 years, people have now seen numerology out there a lot. Okay. So, especially a lot of the celebrities finding a numerologist to work on their name, work on their date of birth, and give them some information. Leaders of the country, every president of the United States on some level, we know for sure, let's say former Republican, late deceased by this time, Ronald Reagan, his wife went to an astrologer. So he used to get information to see where he was going. A lot of political figures around the world have used astrologers to kind of map out, their decisions so they make the right decisions. And this is no accident. You've had, let's say, shaman medicine people going back centuries, civilizations, all the ancient ones, where they relied on those people to check the stars for them, to do the rituals for them, to synchronize those rituals with connection of their ancestors and the deity guides to lead them straight. So this is nothing new. Okay, people in Freemasonry use numerology and astrology. They do study it. How do I know? Because I've had cousins involved, and I know other relatives who have been and friends. I used to stay with people at one point in my 20s. This is before I even was getting deeply into it like I am now, who were doing it. And they weren't supposed to tell me. They were actually sharing some of that information. They weren't supposed to do that because they're under oath not to share the teachings, but they were. So we know it's been these teachings, astrology, numerology, palmistry, all these things, tarot, all these things have been used in secret, quote unquote, secret fraternal orders. And not just fraternal orders, sisterhood orders as well. So people understand this stuff and they actually hone their skills. There are people in other I'll say Christian mysticism. I'll put it that way. People in Christian mysticism study these sciences as well. And I'll tell you this, I'm not going to say the person's name, but there is an individual out there in one sense who's well known. And I can tell you, his ability to meditate long and be accurate is on point, and he's been doing it for an extremely long time. And he has these I'll call them conferences because I don't want to say exactly who the person is. Um, but you may have heard of him, and he has been out there a long time. He's given out this information. He trains a lot of people how to develop that gift that's there naturally and how to hear it from a higher level. Not only is he good, but his wife is excellent, and one of their sons, one of their children, is like the mother, very much on point, rarely misses. So, there are many people who have this training, this ability on some level. They just house it and call it under another name. But they do use this, okay? All of them out there have used it in one way of another. And don't blink an eye using numerology, just to let you know that they know it on some level. And I know some people who studied within this guy's group, and he says, yeah, take a whole bunch of people and send them to astrological school for summer and get this information. So I just want to let people know this information is all over the world. Okay, there is not one culture, civilization, nation of people that has never used astrology, numerology in their own way. And when I talk about numerology in their own way, this also goes in terms of how they count, okay, measurement, things of that nature, measuring weight and mass and distance and time. So every culture, every civilization, every nation, every tribe, every country has somehow utilized astrology and numerology and palmistry, reading with bones, shells, you name it, and being able to have the accuracy and put it out there. That's what I want to say. And some of that in a very minute way will be mentioned in my course in the beginning so that you know that there's all the way around the world, numerology has been tapped into. Okay. The only thing we shouldn't be doing is saying like one group of people has all the answers. No, every group has a significant part of the pie. And if they all came together, it'd be great if you could put all these minds together, how much they could come up with that would be in your mind like a constellation of information. And there are many other people, some people who have passed away, like Dr. Delbert Blair, I believe his name is. And I think he was up in Chicago. He had a lot of rich, deep information on the metaphysical side and the spiritual side and the occult side. And there was another gentleman out of Atlanta, Georgia, with another guy who's in Atlanta, Georgia, who I believe has studied with this gentleman. And these two guys are deep. They've got information like nobody's business. So it's up to each one of us as a matter of preference to study in such a way that we can evolve our minds. That's highly important. We want to uh, allow ourselves to be able to uh, share with other people. This is so important that we allow ourselves to step out there and share information. And we all have it, it should be shared. Yeah, there's a price, but hey, what else isn't a price? Okay, what else do we have that's not a price? So, usually money change. And so we're talking about the value. Now, some might teach the same thing I teach and charge thousands of dollars. So be it. I'm trying to make it possible so everybody can afford it. Okay. On some level, everybody can afford this information. That's all I'm striving to do. I'm putting together material for family members right now. I mean the little ones, you know. I went away on vacation and I spotted something. I was able to see something with the little ones. So I'm preparing something for them, which they'll have all this information that I have. And so let me put this here. And this is, again, highly important. You know, everybody can get this information if we put our minds to it. That's all we got to do. We got to put our minds to it and allow ourselves to step into this bigger field of information and utilize it so that we can not only make our lives better, but everyone and every living thing around us. And this is important because the more we do, the better we shall be. And I just want to make sure everybody's getting this stuff. And so this is important. I just want to let a few people know. I thought I might broadcast this live on broadcast this live on Instagram, but it'd be way too much information and too much digital stuff. I didn't bring my iPad in the room with me so I can do this. And, you know, just want you to get it. Want you to get this stuff. So let me let me sweep back to the other side. Okay, so one of the things about numerology is that it can be just like an astrologer or numerology itself. It could be a fun topic to study, literally, because there's so much in there, not just the numbers. Some people, when they study it, we just break any number down to 1 through 9. Okay, because that's the powerhouse number for many people, 1 through 9. But there's more than that. There's You'll find out in my book and in this course. I'm going to talk about compound numbers in my numerology course. I'm not going to just talk about destiny numbers. I'm going to talk about a concept that I have called the angle of destiny, how you come upon that. Now, a lot of people, and it's good. A lot of people have their own concepts of numerology, their own terms, and we all should at some point. Okay, we all should have our own terminology for these things. Okay, why it makes it easier for us as practitioners to know what we're talking about. But again, no one person has all the answers. Now, there are people who have been out there a long time, like my good brother Lloyd Strayhorn. In fact, I'll be on live with Lloyd. He's going to let me be on his show the last Wednesday of this month of December, which will be Wednesday evening 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, December the 28th. So I'm going to be on, and he's going to have me, you know, peruse the crowd with some information, cruise through there, giving like mini numerology readings. Maybe we might talk about dreams a little bit as well, and some other insight. I might relate a color and a number kind of routine to people. So we're going to do that, and I'll be on for at least an hour on his show. So it'll be an opportunity to share all this information again with everybody. Now, again, if you come on here and you hear me and see me rambling on, I'm only going to be on 2 hours. I popped on here at 7 p.m. and I'm going Eastern, and I'm going off at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. At least I plan to. Anybody that knows me, I talk a lot. I didn't talk a lot as a child, though. So again, you know, numerology is a fascinating field to play with, and I know Lloyd, he has studied biorhythms. You know, when you have time, you can get into all of this. But Lloyd was first an astrologer, you know, had the brain as an astrologer, did charts, astrological charts, then found numerology and merged them together. So, I mean, there's so many things. This is why he's called an astronumerologist. He was out there in the New York City colleges teaching classes, giving lectures, going to metaphysical bookshops within the five boroughs, four of those boroughs of New York City, teaching. So he's been doing it a long time. I've known him for 44 years, and I've been doing this for 48. So Lloyd is active, folks. He's all over the place, and he's been able to travel and study. So, people like himself, myself, other people, his students, our students, can get exposed to these teachings. And at the same time, it is an opportunity to leave this material on the planet. That's my main goal. And I must say, at some point, I thought about, I just turned 70 here in March of 2022, and I thought about maybe I ought to get ready in the next 2 years to lay it all down. But then when I went on my vacation and met up with my little nieces and nephews, ranging from 2, 3, 4 years of age all the way up to 59, and the ones that were in their already adulthood with their families, I thought, maybe the reason why I'm going at this so strong and making the numerology book number 6, is because I want to leave a legacy for those guys. I want those young people to have this information, just not someone else's information, but my information as well, so they can see, hey, what the Uncle Frank has been doing all these years. So, as I say, numerology is a great topic. And, here's one of the other things I will mention in my course. When you're doing like astrology, astrological charts, when you're doing numerology charts, when you're working with palmistry, if you're dealing with this, studying gemstones, this is a selenite wand that I work with at times. Even when you're using these tools, there is something that happens here between the right temple. There's something on up here. And what happens is you change bit by bit, moment by moment, you begin to change. You begin to have some form of awakening that's going on. This also happens to people who are very creative, people who are composers, choreographers, photographers, creative writers, people that write novels, right? People that write documentaries, people who are poets, people who are singers, and all other musicians and artists. I think I said that already. When you delve into the art or the gift that you feel that you have, and you begin to explore that gift, you start to change. And you start changing from the inside to the outside world. Your internal world changes. It has been already proven in 20 years, 30 years ago, that if people listen to certain types of music, they acted certain ways. And now we realize over the past, 10 or 15 years or more, even going back, subliminal type messages laid out in music. People have done it, subliminal type messages laid out in meditation music. Like, for instance, if you're listening in some of the things that you'll see online on YouTube, they use the hertz tones, right? And they'll display the 8 hertz tones, or the 9, which is 174 hertz, 258 hertz, 528, 825, 369, 963, right? 639, something like that, and several more. They'll lay these tones out, and then they'll tell you there's 111, there's 222. There's all kind of ranges. But what is so significant about these ranges is people can embed the sound inside of music. So sometimes it sounds like cards being mixed, when you get that rapid sound of the cards hitting each other. It sounds like that. Then that people can embed in music on a track. on a whole nother track, somebody could put words to that, and all you hear is the musical tones. So, if all of that can be done and change you, literally change the way you think about yourself, the way you are thinking and planning and looking at life, then the same thing occurs on some level when you're studying astrology or numerology or palmistry or you're working with crystals and gemstones. And sometimes, and this is no fault of either person, sometimes people will study gemstones and put it out on a whole different level. Now, some people may not know, and I'm going to say it took me a very long time. I started with selenite back in 1978, and I had older colleagues on Long Island who were already into selenite, had it all over their home, and I was mesmerized by it. I would go to their homes and listen to them give their small talks in their homes about other things, and I'd sit next to the gemstones, and I was mesmerized by it. And then one time, I had a dream about selenite, and as I had the dream about selenite, then selenite made its presence with me. That was 1988 when I got my first piece at a psychic fair. Then, as time went on, really wanted to know, well, how come I had this strong attraction to selenite? Because when I was in college, I had an attraction to gems. I remember I went to some kind of little indoor jewelry festival, and it was set up that all monies were being given, donation monies given to a homeless shelter or animal shelter. And I fell in love with tiger's eye, and I fell in love with turquoise, and I fell in love with red jasper. But that was all that was out there, some of these basic stones. And I remember graduating from college and going to a place in the village of Hempstead where there was an indigenous guy in there. It was two guys, one on one end of the block, other end. And one guy, he belonged to the Shinnecock Reservation. He dealt with gems. He had all kind of chokers and things in there with turquoise in it. Where there was a guy from Africa way down the block on another end, almost going into another town, and he had a whole bunch of other things. And I was drawn to those. But again, I didn't have the metaphysical connection, but I knew I was drawn to them for a reason. So that's way back in the 1980s, 1970s. When I was out of college, 1980s, being on Long Island and running into this stuff. But selenite made its presence known. And through the power of selenite, I started studying, like, okay, I started realizing there's some other reason why I'm craving to have selenite. Why was I craving to have um, turquoise? And I used to ask the people when I saw the rough versions, what's this thing that looks like copper? And they said, that's a part of turquoise. That's just really turquoise embedded on copper. Well, I started to realize talking to other people who were, and I was nowhere involved in veganism, vegetarianism, all that stuff yet. I didn't have a concept of how to work with that. I tried, but I didn't know what I was doing. So I was like a lot of other people, just picking through like you go through a supermarket, pick something here, pick something there, and hope it works. So I realized that in our body, it was brought to my attention. Hey, didn't you ever study earth science and all this stuff in school and realize that the body has all these trace minerals? So I started looking at the charts with somebody, and one day I saw a trace mineral and it said selenium. And I said, wait a minute. Selenium, Selenium. I'm going to type that in here. This trace mineral in our body. I'll write it here. Trace mineral in our physical body called selenium. And here I have here at home since 1988, I have lots of selenite. So, this is just to say that the body calls for itself. We may even come to the realization one day that we are our own spirit guide, bringing information. It's coming through the higher self that we're able to pull this information and not just putting it on some other beings. That we also have this. This is why it's so important to really study these different disciplines, really take our time going into it and seeing what we can see, because there's so much that's being offered up to us that we don't realize just how powerful things are. If we begin to comprehend these things, at some point, we can realize that all of these things make sense. And we have to begin to comprehend why do they make sense. We have to comprehend why do these things make sense. They have to make sense, right? Well, we might say not always, but they do make sense for a reason, so that we can have a little bit more order in our lives. So we're always seeking information, we're seeking insight, we're trying to figure out who we are. At some point, at some point in our life, we won't really need to work with astrology and numerology, because we will realize the things that represent us, we already are those things. And that those things are pulled out of us to make us look at ourselves deeply. This is not to say that it'll be destroyed, because whatever we have studied over the years for ourselves to help other people will still be around to help other people. It's like if you're walking down a path and someone left some pellets or some gems only for you to find. You might think, well, I should pick them up and keep them. But if you looked from a higher perspective, it's for everybody. I found this gem and I could read the vibration off the gem. I can read the vibration. There's a David kingdom connected to minerals, plants, animals, insects. All these things can give us messages. Our ancestors could read them. They had no doubt in their mind that they didn't understand the winds and the current of the wind, uh, how water worked and the consciousness of water. They understood these things and they able to move forward in due time. So it was always a process. There was always a method. There was always a map. Numerology gives us a map. Astrology gives us a map. Palmistry, the lines in your hands and fingers, give you maps. You study foot reflexology and hand reflexology, there's a map. If you study Qigong exercises, or better yet, acupuncture and acupressure, there are lines, right? Lines running through the body from the astral or sympathetic nerve system that allows you to see the grid and the points on the body of what certain things mean, certain organs. It's not just in one part of the body, it's carried throughout the body. They say there's 365 meridians. Unique, right? 365 days of the Gregorian calendar. So each one of those lines can map out a whole nother map of consciousness and awareness and remembrance. So it's good for us to be aware of all of these things because it's going to trigger an awareness and it's going to further trigger a remembrance. And as I teach all of my students, as we begin to shower the planet with unconditional love, compassion, and grace, and more, as people say, an understanding, an overstanding, and an understanding, as we begin to release all of these treasures back into this environment, this so called experiment won't lock the mind up anymore. Artificial intelligence won't control us. We'll go back to the ancient way, which is also the modern way, a futuristic way that allows us to maintain liberation of the mind or the brain, liberation over your body. We will realize, metaphysically speaking, that we're infinite and that the soul houses all this information. Soul is like a book. One of the things, if you realize, or maybe I haven't mentioned, that usually every second Tuesday of the month, once a month, every second Tuesday, I teach a free enrichment training class. And one of the topics I just did this week was I talked a little bit about the Akasha energy field. And I'm going to go into it again. Akasha. I'm going to go into some chakra work to understand that as well. And I'm going to do that in January. Why? Because we need to be reminded of how these things operate within our system and how we can utilize whatever we need to utilize to free up our own energy. We are supposed to be able to communicate at higher energy levels and not through this physical world like we're doing. We're not supposed to be stuck on cell phones and regular phones and laptops. These things are extensions of ourselves. We're supposed to be able to tap in to the frequency, the mind energy between third eye to third eye and pituitary to pituitary, throat to throat, heart chakra to heart chakra, base of the skull to base of the, we're supposed to be able to tune into each other, catch that higher frequency, and be up there and hear the message and communicate without being interrupted. And perhaps we're that close. Perhaps we don't realize how close we are to being able to telepathically communicate. Now, what can happen is usually mothers do it with their children, just like that. Mom knows her son and daughters. Mom can communicate with all of her sons and daughters. I remember how my mother seemed to know certain things I was doing in college when we didn't have a use of a cell phone. We just had a regular payphone. Weren't allowed to have a regular dial-up phone in your room. You only had a payphone in a hallway. And she always knew when to call. That's really being in touch on a high frequency. She knew when I was up and she knew I would be the one to answer that phone the minute it rang. She could see things. Why? Because this was wide open. She could hear things. So she had that clairaudient ability, clairsentient ability, clairvoyant ability, and a whole bunch of other clairs operating. We have to get back to operating all of those. The more we know, the better we shall be, the easier things can get, and the less frightening things can become because we will be able to read energy properly. There's people all over teaching trance and evidentiary mediumship so you get super clear. We all know what we know at the level that we know, and we're able to impart that information to other people. This is significant for us. It's very, very important. Now, so than any other time. Now than any other time. There's so many things that are happening on the planet in this game that we're supposed to rise above it. We're not supposed to be shackled by it. And that's why there's so many things being thrown at the public. And we can all get caught up by it. So people are going at each other instead of going to the source. This is why many of us have made felt for a long time, I need to get quiet. I need to be a little on the quiet side. Now, some people might get upset with you and go, well, you're not talking to me all the time, or you're not doing this. Not everybody's supposed to be doing that, because we all are here and we need to go within. And as difficult as it is to do, and sometimes you don't want to isolate yourself from other people, but sometimes you have to. And it doesn't mean there's something wrong with them. It just means you're being told to isolate yourself. Sometimes you find out that isolation was a good thing in the end, because it made you what? Clear. You weren't in someone else's space energetically, and they weren't in your space energetically. But you are both aware of each other. Some of us can handle being in a period of silence for a long period of time. Sometimes other people may misinterpret that silence for you being angry or upset, and you're not. You just know you're supposed to quiet yourself and remain quiet. I've come to the realization I don't have to be every place. Here I am, 70 now, just finally coming to that. But if I had jumped on that thought when it first came up in my 30s, I don't have to be every place. I would perhaps be further along the line of openness and higher consciousness energy on a higher plateau than I am today. Probably be more sensitive, more empathic in a completely different way. Being empathic, though, is rough, because when you're empathic, you feel everybody's pain. You're not just being sensitive to people, you're feeling the pain that they're going through. You feel the other energy that they go through. I like to think of the word empath as saying, path is me. You're an open door, everything's flowing through you. And it's hard to filter it all out. And it doesn't mean that what you're filtering out is hateful to you or whatever. It's just energy. We're not supposed to carry each other's energy around, because you never get free if you do that. This is why in those ancient times, when those monks were in the bell towers, were in the temples, were sitting on top of the mountains, in caves, and the reason that they were there was to get away from the noise and the clutter of society, so they can be with their own thoughts, so they can develop themselves. Now we bring ourselves into society and trying to establish that. And it's not easy. It's not easy. You may have family members knocking at your door, calling you up. You have neighbors. You might have life partners, friends, business associates. Want to know how come you're to yourself. Why not? Again, it doesn't mean that you're going to be upset at others. It just means you need to be by yourself, to work on yourself, to find out why you do what you do and think the way that you think, and find a way to be more loving, not just to the world, because you got to do that too, but to love thyself first. Clear your own thoughts, clear your heart, clear your emotions. That's something that we all need to do. And I'm going to put this in here: clear your mind of old habitual thought patterns. You have to do it. You can't be upset with other people. We can only get upset with ourselves if we're not cleansing, if we're not fixing ourselves. We have to fix ourselves before we fix others. If we don't fix ourselves, you're not going to be able to help someone fix themselves. I remember I was speaking earlier today, and I was telling one of my longtime clients that I'm thinking about maybe retiring. And she said, "Nah, you can't retire now. We all need you." Well, you all needed me before too. And you still need me, but I'm tired. I don't want to be reading people my entire life. I want to relax. And so sometimes we got to do that. We got to relax the self, relax the mind. If we don't relax our mind, we don't clear this out, we don't clear out what we're thinking and feeling all the time, you're not going to be able to be present with others. You're not going to have the clarity that's necessary. You're not going to have the expansion and the awareness because you're not dropping that old way of thinking, doing, and feeling. And everybody has to do this. Everybody. Whether you speak, whether you're a great mentor, life coach, you name it, you still got to work on yourself. Athletes do it all the time. They have to work on themselves. Like baseball is the only field where you bring someone up from the farmland, as they call it, and put them in the majors. All other sports, they don't do that. All other sports, you got to play at the level during the summer to gain a spot on the field, to get that number one spot. You got to play at a high level. You don't get a chance to come up into a farm league. Now, some may get traded off to Canadian football leagues and other leagues after they've been in the higher leagues. But things change. Hey, Brendy, how you doing? I know. I remembered. I remembered. Where's my hand here? Should I be the cat or the doggy? Where am I? I'll put myself as the alien guy. So, there's so many things. What I was talking about here is how we got to go into that silent mode. We have to do it. And sometimes you can announce it to other people, but other people may not understand. They may think you're avoiding them. And this used to happen with myself and friends when I lived back in New York. They didn't get it. I said, I'm just going to stay home. I'm not going to hang out tonight. Oh, come on, man. Let's hang. Let's go to a movie, or we'll meet you at the movie theater. Sometimes I just didn't show up. And they said, well, you said you were coming. I said, no, in the beginning, I said I wasn't going to come. I wasn't sure if I'm supposed to be there. I'm just paying attention. And many times thereafter, when I started, and this being on Long Island, and in New Jersey a little bit, mainly on Long Island, when I started to pay attention, many other things would jump off, like some accident. Some of my friends saw a mugging or almost got mugged, almost got the car stolen, going to restaurants or parties and people acting out. And they would say, yeah, man, this party, good thing you weren't there. I said, if you listen to what I said, something told me I wasn't supposed to be there. Didn't know why I wasn't supposed to be there, but it wasn't for me to be there. So when I would hear about those things, I would say, oh, I am listening. to upstairs. I am listening to the universe now. I am hearing my ancestors tell me, you're not supposed, I don't care how big the block party is. I don't care if you're going to meet your friends there. There's a whole bunch of other people that are going to act out. And it's going to be crazy kind of energy. So I started paying attention. Now, when I stayed home by myself, I was going, now what do I do? I didn't feel like reading, and I had tons of books I could read: metaphysical, psychic development, meditation development, crystals. Or just sit and watch TV or go to sleep. And then later I said, I got to have something to do. I just can't stay home. So I started getting, back in those days, DVDs, right? And play them things and watch them things, watch movies. But a lot of stuff was good stuff to watch. Now here I am in my 70s. I could stay home and tune into Fire Stick and find some spiritual stuff to watch or some UFO stuff to watch. Anything to take my mind off of what's going on outside. We have to find a way to continue to evolve. To evolve. I'll say that again. We have to find a way to continue to evolve. This is essential to our well-being. We have to do it. If we're not allowing ourselves to evolve, we're doing a disservice to ourselves. That's why it's good to take classes when you can take classes with somebody. It's good to operate on a whole nother level wherever you can get the information from. Go to conferences, go to seminars, go to summits, retreats, you name it. Wherever you can go, wherever you can fit in, whatever you can afford, go do it. Why? It's for your well-being. Read as much as you can about a favorite author that you have in the metaphysical and the psychic world and whatever. Educate yourself as much as you can. Bathe in the information as much as you can, because the whole reason is to release, right? To let go of something and to let something in, or let go of old data to get to the finer, rarefied data inside yourself, so that that information that you eventually can tap into will cause you to prosper, not just in financial ways, but to prosper spiritually and metaphysically speaking. Because you're here to remember something or many things that can get you through life faster. People say, some of my students, and I had a lady say today to me, "Oh, you're not helping me." I am. I don't want to overshadow your thinking. I don't want to block you from your desire to grow in a certain way. See, part of mentorship is to see where a person's going, give whatever tools that are needed at that time, and then take a step back. You never find an athletic coach all in the player's business. There are some coaches, men and women, who can be like the fathers and the mothers to their athletes. Some athletes will tell you, I'll go back to the college I went to where I know that coach was, and I'll look him up and I'll go back and hang out with him during the off season because I need some insight, because they already set me on a path. Some spiritual mentors are not meant to be around you all the time. Life coaches aren't meant to be in your life all the time. They're here for a hot minute. Why? Because they have their own life to develop and hone. And this is important for them to do. They got to work on themselves. They got to be with other people. Not necessarily meaning that the person is better at what they do, but the other person may see something that they don't see. But again, it'll always go back to self. This is why meditation is a must. Daily meditation is a must. Whether you can do it for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, 60 minutes, 120 minutes. But at some point, you're going to have to walk that solo path of meditation. You're going to have to walk it. As I say, walk out the victory. You're going to have to walk the path. And many times the path will be a solo path because you've got to tap the many different layers of yourself in order to see yourself. And it's not easy. Not everybody can do that. Not everybody wants to do that. And is it fun? Sometimes it ain't fun. Because just when you think you overcame something, you find some other stuff with yourself. And you go, oh God, what is this now? There's other stuff that was lying underneath the other stuff. This stuff is embedded in us. Whatever we are releasing, we're releasing stuff in layers. So there are going to be moments when we hit the goal. We thought we hit the jackpot with ourselves. I'm finally liberated. And then months go by. The excitement wears off, but you know something else. What is that? Something else is creeping to the top. And then there it is, something else. That something else might be, let's say, an old friend or a family member, and they only see you from when they remembered you when you all were teenagers, or your buddies out of college, or they went to your wedding, you went to their wedding. They only remember these little things, but they don't realize some of the things you had to go through, and sometimes they couldn't be there with you. You had to go through it by yourself. Many of us have gone through those situations where we have siblings that sometimes, if you didn't get along with the sibling, they're still reminiscing when you were in your teens, especially if they're older. That's all they remember, who you were up to a certain point, and they missed all that other time because they divorced themselves from you without you realizing it. Or you divorced yourself because you had to from them without realizing it. So there's this need or this inner desire to make a change. And we all have to make a change. Let me type that in there. We all have to make, I'll say, changes. That's essential to our well being. If we're not changing, we don't know what we could be missing that could be delivered to us on a different level, right? There are many things that could be delivered to us on a different level that can bless us and allow us to see a bigger picture and to move up the ladder, to move forward. So I've been on for an hour, a little over an hour. I said I was going to only be on here for 2 hours. So I'm going to switch to a different topic. And you can replay this again where I talked about my numerology course that's coming up. And let's see, I've touched upon that. And one of the things, that's what my ancestors were talking about desire, what they desire for me to say. One of the things I want to talk about here um, is how to become awakened during your dream world. People often say that, can we awaken during the time of dreams? There are, and many of you have heard me talk about this before, dreams, the importance of our dreams, how important are our dreams. I remember one time being on radio with somebody. I don't think it was Lloyd, but it was on with another guy who's no longer on the planet. He was an astrologer. His name was John Harris, I believe his name was Jon Harris, and he was a dynamite astrologer. He was one of the baddest guys on the planet up in Harlem, and he had a show on. He wasn't on WLIB. He was on WBAI, which is a station out in New York City, and he had me come on with a couple other people, and he was asking me something about dreams. And at the time, I think he asked me, did I ever had a very significant dream? And I told him about this dream. And the dream that I had was I saw the White House with this huge cloud growing over it. And I think this is during the time of during the time before Nixon was in there. I saw this cloud, and it was very deep cloud, and it was so deep that everything, when I looked inside, I saw just all these silhouetted figures. Now, it had nothing to do with what happened January 6th all these years later, but it was something going on in the White House at the time of whoever was the president. And it might have been whoever, maybe at the time when Clinton was in there. But I think it was related to Nixon's time because that was around 74, 72, all those times. And we were all trying to figure out what all that meant. But I also had a dream that was connected to AIDS virus. And I was telling people, the AIDS virus was not so much something that could have been a seed planted. It could have been just the course of things, the nature of things, and the direction things was headed. And I think I had that vibration because I had a cousin who, at the time when his father passed in 1988, in April of 1988. My cousin was an Aries. He was born March 26, 1953. So he was born a year after me in the same month of March. Um, but I saw him numerous times and I noticed he was not looking well. And this is before we had but I sensed that he wasn't going to be around long. And we were always very close. And he lived as a gay male. I didn't hold it against him. He was one of my favorite cousins. Could dance. He could act. He was in acting. He could sing well. Um, and he was just an all around good guy. And I met the people who were his friends. I used to go hang out in Chelsea where he and his friends got to know them very well. They were a nice group of guys. But he had contracted that disease. And I couldn't put my finger on it. I just knew that he wasn't well. And this was a year or two before his father passed, because he passed actually the same time, the same year that his father did. He transitioned I believe in September of 1988. And we went to his father's funeral in around April of 1988. So he got to, you know, be at his father's funeral. His father had a hard time dealing with his lifestyle, but he didn't live at home. He lived in down in Chelsea area, the Greenwich Village area. And he was a nice cousin, one of the nicest cousins I ever had, and he was bright and he was intelligent, I think he learned how to speak Spanish and he was good. But I saw him dwindling away. I was saying, wow, his clothes look really big on him. And he used to say, I don't feel well, I don't know why I'm not feeling well. And I used to say or think he'll pull out of it. But I remember seeing that in a dream that this cloud was all over the United States and it was stretching across the waters into Europe and down into South America and all of these places, not knowing that that's what was going on. So I had those two dreams. But when I had the dream, it was like I could see myself from the side. So I wasn't in my dream body. So I knew it seemed to hit more like on a symbolic way. But I knew I could see myself, silhouette, right side or left side, viewing this like a movie. So I just kind of bring that up as a thought. But um, how do we become lucid in a dream? How do we wake up in a dream? Well, sometimes it doesn't happen overnight. Just like the ability to have an out of body experience, or people call astral traveling, I call it more like soul traveling, that you have this experience. How do you know that you're lucid in a dream, meaning consciously awakened in the dream? Well, it takes some bit of time, some bit of practice to be able to grow an awareness that you are awake like that in a dream. And again, it could be any way possible. Anything can happen that can trigger that. But usually, and this is just the way that I have discovered, I would often say to myself that tonight, even though it may not have happened, I would say tonight I will awaken in my dream world. And when I awaken in my dream world, I will be able to turn and see through the veils my physical body prone, at rest, asleep in the physical world. And I won't be afraid when I see my physical body. I will know that I have awakened in the dream world consciously. And I used to replay that pattern in my mind. Now, when I first said it, I didn't necessarily believe that I was going to have that experience because I didn't know too many people that did, and if they did, they didn't talk about it. And at the time, I didn't see enough books out there. Other people were talking about how to interpret the dream, various dream symbols, hundreds of books on dream symbols, but no one was talking about how to awaken yourself, how to be consciously awake that you're having this experience. So at some point, after about 50 days, 60 days, because I used to keep a journal, I'd wake up and say, didn't awaken in the dream, didn't awaken in the dream. And I would count the number of days. For me, it took somewhere around 45 to 60 some odd days before I remembered that I had awakened in a dream. Then I wrote what I thought it felt like. But I realized I couldn't write about what I thought it felt like. I had to write about what it felt like. Why? Because the feelings were highly important. The feelings were like a measuring stick. With the feelings being a measuring stick, it allowed me to dig deeper into the fact that, hey, if I did it once, I can do it again. So the more that I was able to do it, and it took me another 3 or 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, 7, 8, 9, 10 months to realize I finally had a breakthrough. I realized not only was I in my dream body, but I was consciously aware that I'm in my dream body. And that, yeah, I could see through the veils around me that my body was quietly asleep. But I knew I was not attached to it. But I could feel an energetic cord, just like an astronaut steps out of a spaceship. There's a reason that cord is there. That cord symbolizes two things. They're like the baby out of the womb. They're getting everything from that cord to pull themselves back in, to feel attached. We are attached to this physical form. We are attached to the astral belt within and around the body, the etheric body. We are connected mentally to the body. We are connected emotionally to the body. Yet, we are in a world where we can see things differently. So once we awaken, we become more lucid. We become more aware that we can see things differently. And usually, what happens when you're having that lucidity in a dream, and I should put here the word lucid, right, in the dream world, when we are having these things, we become more knowledgeable and we actually are free. We are free to make a change in outcomes, making making positive outcomes. Now, the military field has done that. Military intelligences, from the Navy to the Army to the Marines to the Air Force, intelligent capacities. You can research all of this stuff up from Stanford University to who used to call it the Star Wars program that Clinton used to call. All this stuff was designed on remote viewing, all of that. Developing high intelligence. People can track down criminals in the world just by training them how to do remote viewing. And when you're doing remote viewing, you're not asleep. You are wide awake, opening up your mind to be able to see something, feel something, sense, and describe what you're feeling, whether it's a picture, a part of a picture, a fuzzy looking picture. It can be done. Military was doing it all the time, and I bet you they're still training people. Just like they're saying, yeah, UFOs exist. They're just giving you what they want you to know. It exists on a whole nother platform now, so that you can't see it unless you develop yourself to see it. So there are so many things that are out there. There are websites that you can go to. I think one is called luciddreaming.com. Let's see if that one's still around. luciddreaming.com. You can go look and see if that's out there. But if you there's a husband and wife team that talks about it, how to become lucid and how to know that you're lucid so you can make the changes. See, the governments did it, and what they were doing was this: they were into what was called time travel. So look this up. Look up Philadelphia experiment. I believe the date was when it finally clicked, August 12th to the 13th of 19, it was a 40 years spot. So 1940, 1940, and I'll put slash 43. He's either one of these 2 years. But it is time traveling. And guess what it was connected to? Montauk Project. These are connected together. If you were to study a Philadelphia experiment with the Montauk Project, you get the same date, August 12th or the 13th, 1940 or 1943. Being able to skip 40 years. And that's because the energy, and I'll say like the sine wave of 40 years peaking and 40 years. together. So that would be equaling 20 years up cycle and 20 years a down cycle, total of 40 years. And that's, we're talking about the Earth's biorhythm. This is highly important to get into a little bit. This stuff was going on all the time, right underneath the nose of the American public. And it's still going on some level. There are people who participated on some level. Look up these people. Look up this guy. Look up this guy. The second guy I met Stuart Swerdlow. How do you spell his name? I met this guy in Freeport, Long Island, New York, at a dowsing association meeting in March of 1999, I believe it was. This guy, he talked about how he was a part of the Montauk Project. He dealt with that and how he actually realized he was living two lives. Here he was, this guy working in Montauk, and he figured it out. He figured out he's living two lives. He's just not Stuart Swerdlow. He's Stuart Swerdlow, government agent, and how he had this ability, and not just picking it up from his 20s and 30s, but when he was much younger. I can't go too much further. I had some books around here on Talk Project, and it talks about all of these experiments. And many of these people, some of them lost their lives energetically, lost families because certain things happened to them when they awakened and tried to teach it. Stuart Swerdlow was one of the people that he had to move off of Long Island, New York, all the way over to the state of Indiana. And he started teaching these concepts and things that he was taught. He taught the basic of it and then put the entire color language together with the symbols that went on to develop people. Now, those courses that he teaches are in the thousands of dollars. There's another gentleman, his last name is O'Donnell, O apostrophe Donnell, or Donnell, and he's from Florida. He teaches stuff like this. There's also people such as Billy Carson. Billy Carson is this brother who studied with an army major who taught him how to use remote viewing. There's so many people out there who have learned this who had an opportunity, but now everybody charges a fortune to get it. That's the thing. Many people are teaching fortunes to get this material. And sometimes we think it's unfair, but it is what it is. We just have to take ourselves to the level. And this is why meditation, I say that meditation is a must. Oh, here we go again. Putting the caps on. Meditation is a must. The more we know, the better we're going to get. The more you can meditate, the more it helps you ease your mind so you can go deeper in the field of contemplation with ideas and things that you read. The more you can meditate, the more information you can retain and understand, the more information you can recall, the more information about yourself that you can remember. And you begin to make that connection, as Akhenaten said in his book, The Wisdom of Akhenaten as I Am, you become what? The open door. You realize all of this is happening through you. You chose this physical body to be in this environment, and you knew beforehand that all this stuff is going to go on, the threatening of wars here and there, and skirmishes here and there, and between individuals here and there. And you were saying, like, before you got in here, I can handle it. Now, like myself, 40 years later, waking up into all of this and realizing, I wish I had gotten it earlier. I wish I had paid attention earlier. But hey, that's what happened. I made certain choices. So it took me a little while to get it all together. This is why I'm developing things basically for the little ones in my family, my nieces and nephews and their children. I don't want them to have to wait 30, 40 years to get this stuff. The youngest ones from two to whatever it's going to take. I want to have some meditations for them to listen to, audio meditations to listen to. Maybe I'll find some way to put music in the background and my voice on top so the music can get them comfortable so that they could hear the words, they can meditate, make things for their siblings, older siblings, make things for their aunts and uncles, make things for their parents, make tapes, audios, and videos so that as a family unit, just 10 minutes of their time, they could have that information together and really, really get something going for themselves. Those of us that are in this field or in these many metaphysical, spiritual fields, we need to start leaving some of this stuff to them, the little ones. Now, I'm not saying that you must do it. I know it's on me to do it now. This is why I'm teaching. Why? Because they can get this information. I could get it to them some kind of way. I will get this information to them so that they have it to study. It's important so that they don't have to be struggling to get the information. It's so important to leave the legacy with them, whether they use it when they hit 10, 12, 15, 25, 35. They're going to get it. Why? Because I can see it in them already. I can see they got an interest already. So, what else can I say in these last 32 minutes? If you have any questions, one of the things I said on this sheet, maybe I might do a few short numerology readings. So now I see somebody popping in and out. Maybe they're waiting for a numerology reading. I'll put this in here. Whoever's watching, you can put yourself in. You could put your children in. You could put a friend in, maybe a parent. Maybe you have a question. Now's the time. If there's something that you need to know. Now, I might pop back on here. Tonight's Friday night. I might pop back on maybe tomorrow night with some time once I get back home. I don't know about you in your neck of the woods, but in my neck of the woods it's going to be like 19 degrees tonight. Does it get cold out here? Yeah, it does in Albuquerque, in the state of New Mexico. We got our cold months too. Usually in late January and the February, it averages about 47 degrees during the daytime. December, it averages around 30 to 35. So, these things do happen. But whoever is watching me right now, if you have a question in numerology, state it down. Put it in the chat. Now, this is a live chat. So when I go off, I have previously selected that the live chat come up so that when somebody replays this, they can actually ask me a question and I can answer the question for them later. So I can come see the chat, see the comment that you make, and answer your question. Other than that, if you don't want to leave your question or comment here, you can email me at iam.circleofgrace1 at gmail.com. You could send the email there. So we got about 30 minutes, under 30 minutes left, 29 minutes left. If you have any questions, want to get a short mini numerology reading, again, I'm going to be on the last Wednesday on Live with Lloyd. That's Live with Lloyd Strayhorn, live Wednesday, December the 28th, 2022. I will be Lloyd Strayhorn's guest. Lloyd Strayhorn, yes, on Live with Lloyd on Wednesday, December 28th, 2022, at I think he goes on 7 p.m. Eastern. So I will be there. He already told me back in November to look for that opportunity. So I will be on live on Lloyd Strayhorn's as a guest on Live with Lloyd on Wednesday, December 28th, 2022 at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So more than likely, I'm going to be doing some quick numerology readings there. I have some ideas. I might, he uses usually numbers, three numbers. I'm going to use like numbers and colors. So it'll be pretty unique numbers and colors that people might throw out and see how that works. So again, things are highly important now for all of us to evolve. The 12-12 was about a change, an opening. And again, when we hear about these numbers and portals and energy fields, all of this pertains to who we are. We are consciously or unconsciously, or better yet, subconsciously being reawakened, being opened up. Who is opening us up to get this information? It's your higher self. Your higher self is tapping on your door, waking itself, the different parts of itself up to either retain the information or delve deeper into various layers to release what we know or what we think we don't know. There are tons of teachers. I've said it, they're all over. There are a lot of them in the ATL down there. I think Bobby Hemmett is still around. He's teaching his stuff. Dr. Delbert Blair, he already passed away. He was in Chicago. There's a lot of his material on YouTube as well. Late Reverend Ike taught stuff. Uh, Reverend Dr. Michael Beckwith is still around. He's teaching his metaphysical teachings of Dr. Ernest Holmes, the science of mind teachings. There's the unity teachings that got all this information of positive thought processes, affirmative prayer treatments, and decrees. I wrote a book myself called Decree and It Shall Be, subtitled Speak As I Am. And it talks about how to use affirmations, how to use affirmative prayers, how to use prayer itself, how to use meditation, and how to use a decree. And many times when I've taught my things, I've been in a state of mind where I can just release a string of affirmations, release a string of decrees live. It's not difficult to do, it's just getting comfortable with ourselves so that we can do it. If we can get comfortable with ourselves, we will be able to release the information to people. But we got to get comfortable first. That's important. We have to dig a little deeper inside of ourselves so we can trigger ourselves so we can release this data to other people. And yes, there's going to be a whole lot of stuff thrown out there. But as we always say in this community of metaphysical spiritual people, take what resonates with you and leave the rest behind. So if there's something on here that I say that triggers you, oh, I wanted to know about that, go into those things that I mentioned here. You start doing some research. You start getting the information. You're going to find a wealth, a plethora of things. And if none of it makes sense, then don't look into it. Everything I'm saying is designed to help you take some portion that resonates with you and put it into motion right away. We're down to 24 minutes. Any questions, any comments that anybody wants to say? What do we have here? Maybe I'll wave at you. Who knows? Maybe I'm supposed to do that. But I just want you to know I'm here for you. Here to give you some information, some insight, some things that you could go with, things that'll help you have a bigger understanding. Hey there, C. McDonald. How are you doing? Do you have a question? Uh, do you have a question for me? When you replay this later, in the beginning, I talked about the numerology course. Maybe I should say that again. I have this numerology course that I'm going to be teaching. It's going to go 18 weeks. It's going to start on Wednesday, February the 1st, 2023, and end on Wednesday, May the 31st of 2023. Okay, you just tuned in. So I'm going to have that class on 18 weeks. There's going to be 12 paid classes and six review classes that are free. It's going to cost, there's an early bird registration fee that gets you to save a little over $100. That'll be for $293. But you have to pay it anytime between January the 2nd, 2023 and January the 18th, 2023. After that, from January the 19th to February the 19th, you get 4 weeks to pay a $400 fee for the course. So, if anybody wants to jump in on that course, start making the payments in on January the 2nd, and I'll let you pay them in parts. Even when you have, if you missed the early bird registration fee, and okay, it's February the 19th, you'll be paying $400, but you don't have to pay it in one lump sum. You can break it up in installments. But we're going to start the course. I have a couple of people lined up right now, two, three, four people who want to jump and get into this course. So I'm not going to let anybody into the course after February the 19th, because if I have two or I got 15, I want to keep it so it's consistent. I'm working on my teacher's manual right now, and from then I'll pull out the student manual out of that people will get in advance. They might get the first three up front, and then they give them another three, and then another three, and then another three, like that, till they get all the courses. But you will get the outline. Those who pay or start to make the payments for this course will get it's like a 2 or 3 page outline, I believe. Yeah, it's a 2 or 3 page outline. So it's going to show you what's going to be taught each Wednesday. And so everybody will have that that's making the payments. So you know what to expect. Some of the things, Sister McDonald, that I mentioned here, if you go, this is a live chat, but at the same time, it will be replayed. If you replay this, you'll see things that I talked about or mentioned. Like I mentioned, Philadelphia experiment being connected to the Montauk Project. You'll see that in there. Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, that's and this is going to be a live course. In the future, I'm going to put some things together. Someone was telling me to try to put together a pre-recorded format, so I'm going to work at that. I understand everybody has, some challenges. I have some challenges too, because where I live here in Albuquerque, it's not remote. I'm just in a section where sometimes the internet will cut. So what I might do is actually set up a whole nother course and I would say it would be at a lesser fee at that point, a whole nother course in two parts where people can get the information and it's a video. So what would happen is I would be able, rather than have it maybe on a particular website, as the person pays for it, I'll just send it to them via email. That would be my goal. But if I can find a website where I can log it in at and put it at, I'll do that. So I'm working on that for so people don't miss anything. So anyway, there were things that I talked about here tonight. One of them was about lucid dreaming, how to become awake in that. And the best way is just repeat in your mind that you will awaken while you're dreaming. You will awaken while you are dreaming and realize that you are awake in the dream and that you could peer through the veils, the energy field, and see yourself calmly asleep. But you'll be in that dream world, seeing what you need to see. As I said before, military governments have used remote viewing, time travel. That's what the Montauk Project connected to the Philadelphia experiment was about, traveling back and forth in time, a 40-year span of time to try to change the past and change the so called future. These things were being worked on all the time, and they're still being worked on all the time. None of this stuff is happening by accident. In fact, I don't know how many people remember this, but in 1977, there was a East Coast blackout as far up as in the Boston area, I believe, maybe higher up on the East Coast, all the way down to the Florida, coast of Florida. On the east side, there was a major blackout for a while. And it was in the month of July of 1977 that this blackout occurred. And it's interesting because I remember I had a Tai Chi instructor who was injured in a motorcycle accident, who was in a coma in a New York City hospital a day or two before this thing jumped off. And I think the date was around, I'll take a guess, around July 13th. I think it was right around in that time. And this blackout went for several days to a week, but he was in a coma in a particular hospital in New York City. Once that coma was done, once that blackout was complete, was over, and everything was restored, he passed away. And this was a guy that had a chance to go to India and study yoga over and over. And he went to China and studied Tai Chi up in the Wudang Mountains of China. He and another guy went. The other guy is still around. The other guy lives in San Francisco by the name of Kumar Francis or Kumar France, who lives in San Francisco. And they were good buddies. I met him back then. And but this guy passed away after the blackout was restored. But it was amazing that he, in a coma They were able to keep him alive on the hospital's generator, but then he transitioned several days after the blackout had been corrected. But during that time, many people said, "Hey, there's something going on." And I remember when I was on Long Island then. I remember being in a movie theater on August 13th, August the 12th or August the 13th. I was in a movie theater in Malvern, Long Island, New York, watching a movie, like during the daytime, during the afternoon. Just before it was done, there was a brownout. So some people had lights, some people didn't, in this little village area called Malvern, New York. But the year was 2003. So 2003 is 20 years after 1983 and 60 years after 1943. August 12th through the 13th in 1943 was the Philadelphia Experiment Project, connected to August 12th or 13th of 1983 with the Montauk Project. And then in 2003, on the same dates, here's a brownout. And the very interesting thing was there was a guy, and I believe the guy, I think he's passed now. I wrote his name in here, Peter Nichols. He was one of these guys who had been studying a lot of different things, and he was connected to the Montauk Project. And he was into things like Reiki. He wrote an article that was in a newsletter, a metaphysical newsletter that wasn't around anymore. And he talked about how things changed. He talked about how they were out there in Montauk and they couldn't say. They were trained that if they saw themselves, not to try to have a conversation with themselves. That meaning they were trained to split their awareness up to be, let's say, agent so and so and their regular self. But if they came across their self as an agent, saw themselves, do their best not to talk to that part. Why? They would cause friction between the two planes of energy. That kind of thing was exposed, mentioned in a Harry Potter movie. I forget which one of the Harry Potter movies this was, but they were around at that big guy's house named Hagrid, and they went around and they came through the field and they could see themselves on this guy's property, but they weren't allowed to go get in touch with themselves. But they could see themselves there. They could see what was going on, a split reality. Now, that movie, yeah, it's supposed to look like it's not just a mystery of things. Oh, August 12th. Okay, yeah, I have a couple of friends, students who were born August the 12th. These things, these movies are no joke. These movies are showing things played off as something that's real. Just like another one, the Dark Crystal, that shows like the sage turtles. That's based on something too. So all of these things that were designed for children to watch have hidden messages in them. People can study the first movie, Wakanda, right? Now they say this second one, which I didn't even get a chance to see yet, I might have to wait for it to come out on Disney Plus to see it. Is a dynamite movie. It's spectacular for what they do in it. And now the Avatar, the water thing movie. They said that movie's 3 hours long. There's stuff in there that goes on. I have a cousin that was a part of the first Wakanda movie, but at the end, he just had a cameo shot. He just relayed something. And we know All of the characters, the women's army is based on a tribe out of Africa. He said in this one, his research, the avatars are based on a certain tribal group out of Africa that's considered one of the tallest. I can't remember the name. I think he had this on his Instagram file. And the way he had positioned it, let's see if I can locate him. Hopefully. Well, I have to do it another way because he's very much into the black comic books. Let's see if I can find him. But I just saw it the other day. Yeah, here it is. See if I can hold this up. Everybody can see this. This is what my cousin down in Atlanta put up here. Let me get it up a little closer. So he says, did you know, in case you haven't noticed, Avatar was created based on the Nilotic people, Nilotc. Let me put that here. Nilotic people of Africa. Now, my cousin does a lot of research, and I should back it up a little bit. As he says here, Avatar, the movie. And this is very unique because now we're beginning to realize who are these last couple of movies are made about. I hope I got it right. He said these people are from South Sudan to northern Kenya. The Nilotic people are the tallest and darkest people in the world today. And I need to save that. So here's all this stuff going on, all these things being presented. Now I didn't know that, and I'm always trying to do research, but there's so much you can find, right? Yeah, another one, the movie Ants. All these things got information about a lot of other people that we know, and all of this stuff is being released in these kind of ways. That's why it's good for adults to watch these things along with their children, because there's such a mighty education being planted. We need to look at these things very closely. I'll put this other movie, Dark Crystal, that had stuff. All of these things. If we went and pulled all this stuff out, who we are by age now, we'd be able to recognize it. And that's what's so significant about stuff being laid out. It's just a ton of it. People thought the Harry Potter movies were a joke. They're not really a joke. They got that woman placed a lot of things in there. But did she know these things? No, she connected to what they call the muse. The muses are the ones that give this information to people who write, who are creative writers, who are poets. And if they tune into it on a certain level, they can pick that information up. They may think it's coming through a dream or through deep levels of contemplation, but it's coming from someplace else that people are plugging into. So this is why it's so important if we start doing meditation more and more and more every day. And like I say, start with 5 to 10 minutes if that's all you got to do. Start with your breathing for 5 to 10 minutes on a daily basis. Try to find at that time when it's good for you to meditate. It might be early in the morning, just before sunrise or at sunrise. It might be noontime between, midday, 10 to 12, or 12 to 1, or 1 to 2. Evening time, usually after, little after dinner and before you go to sleep at night. Try to be in that range and meditate. If you can't do it every day, pick several days out the week or evenings when you can. At some point, you'll be able to trigger what's deep on the inside, layer by layer, bring it to the surface. How does numerology play into this? Well, they just talked about, as an example, 12/12. The date 12/12/2022 was a gateway. So people born on the 12th, like yourself, had some connection to the gateway energy. This is where there's dramatic changes, dramatic decisions that people can make. Your birth year is 1963. That adds to a 1. So 1 and 12 is 13, right? And 13 and 8 is 21. Yeah. So your life path or destiny number, I call it, in numerology is a 21. That's wisdom. You're here to gather the wisdom of the universe and display it to the world, the deepest parts that you can. All right. That's the 21 in numerology. That's Saturn. That's called the universe or the world in the major arcana of the tarot. So that means you are here to use great wisdom in many different levels and to share that with the world. The angle of destiny, as I call it, I would take that destiny number 21, which is the reverse of your 12, and add that to 12, and you get the master number 33. So your angle of destiny is 33. We call that the Christ number or the Buddhic number, the number of enlightenment, of awakening. Okay. So throughout your life, you will be consciously awakening. That's how I would view it. Throughout your life, you will be consciously awakening and reawakening to the finer points of who you are. The double threes, master threes, but we don't say 3 3, we say 33. So 30 means you go into states of deep contemplation and deep levels of meditation. Then you learn how to creatively, with the number 3, creatively express what you received in the moments of deep meditation. So you're able to put that information out around you and utilize it. 3 is also, think of 3 symbolically like third astrological sign. So you got what? Aries, Taurus, Gemini. So for a split second, you might use Gemini and energy to create a process which to communicate, or third house, getting together with relatives and understanding who your relatives are and how they think. Okay, the chemistry of people, so to speak. But that's like what Pisces is. 12th sign of the zodiac is the chemistry of things. So there's a lot of things that you can work with that would assist you. And right now, on your birthday of this year, 2022 adds to a 6, and we add that to 812, which is 20, right? So that's 26. So you're in a 26/8 personal year. And it's the same thing, overcome restrictions and limitations, overcome all forms of restrictions and limitations, be it finances, material things, be it through long-term relationships, things, whether it's family, romantic, or friendship, or business level, or career level, trying to find ways to free yourself so that you're not bogged down by other people's opinions or problems that they go through. 8 is also respecting traditional things too. You might be a respecter of family traditions, and that's okay. But it's understanding them on a whole nother level for yourself so that you can see them in a way that's helpful and fruitful for you. So there's different ways of looking at the numbers. See, 12 is a high powered number to me. It's a very creative kind of number. Like I said, the 12th sign in the zodiac is Pisces, and Pisces represents all the other signs rolled into one. The number nine represents all the other numbers rolled into it. The number zero represents all the numbers back to zero, which is the mother, divine mother, the womb energy. All these things can be utilized. It's just trying to figure out how to employ them at the right time. And I wouldn't say that every time is the right time, because there's certain parts of our lives that we're trying to put the information out. See, that's the thing. There's certain moments of our lives that we try to put the information out, or we try to retrieve the information. So as I in this, if when you replay this, Sister McDonald, when you replay this, you'll hear me say in the beginning how we have to allow ourselves to be quiet. There's times when we awaken where we feel quiet, feel like I don't feel like talking to anybody. That doesn't mean we're gonna like knock people out of our way. It just means that deep down inside, you have to get to a place where you're quiet, where you can receive information. We do it because there's that still small voice known as your higher self that knows what you're supposed to be doing at every given moment of your life. With all the nonsense, all the political craziness, all other stuff going on in the world, we always got to go deeper and anchor ourselves into the more metaphysical, spiritual, occult world so we can get back to the true self that sees all this stuff going on so that we can look at it properly, because we know we're in a three-dimensional world, and there's higher worlds than that embedded into this one. And if we get into the right frequency, we can see the fourth dimensional or realm, which is where we live with compassion and grace. That part of ourselves that can make the path easier for ourselves so we don't get caught up in so much stuff. Then there's the fifth dimensional, the throat, where you could speak and see it materialize. What you speak, you already know it's present. You're pulling it out of the ethers with your voice and making it materialize. There's the sixth dimensional world where you see with the inner eye, the pineal gland, you could see. There's a replica of something like the pineal gland over there in Rome, in the Vatican area, in that city. They have a pine cone sitting there. That pine cone has nothing to do with anything else but this one in here. Oh my goodness. Sorry to hear that. There is a lot of stuff going on in the world. We had in the community, senior community where I live, we almost lost everything. Nothing happened to the four buildings, but our leasing office caught on fire. And I always often think, yeah, I know it caught on fire through electrical damage, but there's something else going on. Okay. Yeah, when you get to that point where you're on a journey, and it's hard to see it and understand why these things happen. But the best I could say is some part of us knows that we'll be okay. That's the part of us that's, let's say, forced through the ethers to pull that energy out of the ethers around and make it work. Sometimes when these things happen, it's hard to do it, of course. But if you know deep with yourself, you've got some kind of rich, deep connection on a higher plateau, then you're constantly talking it telepathically. You're having a conversation with your higher self. With all these other angles of energy called angels, you're having a communication, and you're pushing your thought with your feeling out into these ethers so strongly that the field of magnetism opens up. That's what people like Dr. Delbert Blair was saying from Chicago before he passed away. He used to say, it's not the electrical energy, it's the magnetic energy. You can open up that magnetic field and pull the information out to yourself. And you start utilizing this information. That's why so many people are talking about trying to eat properly. And over the years, sometimes you find out it's not eat. You can eat super clean. There's a lot of people that do it that are clean eaters, but they're angry people. Just like we know there's people who are millionaires and billionaires, but they're angry. They ain't satisfied with all that money that they got and all those things they can do. They're still not satisfied. So it gets down to not just the foods you eat, but what you bring in here that you digest here. You're allowing the mind, the thought processes you have, the sensory mechanisms that you have that ride throughout your body. You feed them just enough so you can use those to comprehend things on a bigger level. See, this is my feeling. I think that what we're supposed to be able to do is have a full-blown verbal conversation with somebody and have a telepathic conversation with a whole lot of other people or beings all at the same time. I feel that we're supposed to be able to be in this physical world and a part of us be someplace else having a whole nother conversation and a whole nother dealing and a whole nother doing and be conscious of it. And I feel that it's going to happen for all of us. All of us are going to be able to do it. And others who can't do it doesn't mean that they can't do it. They just mean that they remember that it's supposed to hold something into place. Yeah. Hey, there she is. Aritmat, Mayat. There's a whole lot of other stuff going on that's designed to keep us from tuning in to a bigger picture of who we really are. Yeah, there's a whole lot of negative entertainment designed to keep us from tuning in. But once we could tune in, then we become something different. Yeah, they can't. Things can't touch you once you get on a certain frequency. Other people who want to be with you can't feel you because you're on a different frequency than they are. And guess what? You can sense when they're trying to reach you. Why? Because it's almost like you look around you, you see their face in the ethers around you. I remember at one point, before I knew, really understood what this was all about, what my late mother was teaching me, I had an inkling of it, but now I can do it. But back then, I would probably been so far advanced, like she said, that I would be speaking these things and someone would capture me and put me in a white jacket and throw me in an insane asylum somewhere where I couldn't see or be around people. That won't happen now because I can keep myself away from various people, but I wouldn't be able to do it back then because I didn't have enough connections within these ethers around me. There's so much stuff that's happening designed to sidetrack us. I'm kind of happy now that, hey, I got a TV set, but I don't feel like turning it on sometimes. I'm searching with my fire stick for certain information. Sometimes I don't want to talk on the phone. but I have to give myself another reason for doing what I'm doing. So now what I'm doing is for my nieces and nephews, for my spiritual sons and daughters. What I'm doing now, creating courses and things. Why? To give it up to them. So when I get off the planet, I don't be carrying all this stuff around. I don't have to say on my dying bed, I wish I had took that path. I wish I had have done this. I wish I had have done that. I don't have to do that anymore. I'm doing it now. And they're going to get it now. Oh, yeah. They're waking up and they're remembering. I was watching something with Bobby Hemmett that said, when you're between the age of, from the time you're born to the age 1 to the age 5, you're supposed to remember all the things you came into the planet with. Woo! Can you imagine? So I'm 70 now. So roughly between now and 75, I should be remembering everything that I came into the planet with again. Remembering it again, but this time dispersing it into the hands of the right people, or a lot of people, as much as I can. And sometimes I have coaches. I have business coaches who tell me sometimes, you got to charge thousands of dollars. Well, guess what? I probably could charge thousands of dollars, and it could get into the hands of people who can afford it. But are they going to share it with other people? I think not. Oh, you bought the Akhenaten book? I'll help you. You bought this one? This is how he had me spell it. You know, just a few days ago, yesterday, I was looking at, I used to be a part of a solar rejuvenation group. And in this group, that's the name of that one. In this group, we were supposed to be able, what they do was flash the sun. In other words, blink your eyes and you can flash the sun. I don't know. I don't remember how many people. I don't know. I don't remember how many people were in the group. November 15th, 2015, be one of the people that not only got the sun to flash, but to show a reflection of fire going up my hoodie. Now I didn't know what it meant. All I know is I gotta tell everybody in the group. When I put it on Facebook at that time within the group, and I contacted another friend who eventually left, like I did, because of some other things that were going on. He put it out there, and the guy who was the head teacher says somebody in our group flashed the sun, which is supposed to mean he's an immortal walking around on Earth. I don't know if that's what who I was supposed to be. All I know is it happened. I still have a copy of that. I just have not been able to send it across into the ethers. It only lasted like 2 or 3 minutes. I have not been able to send a copy to anybody because it gets blocked from me from sending it. Yes, because the way, and it was a channel book. The Wisdom of Akhenaten as I Am is a channel book. The Gift, which is the companion. The Gift, the Wisdom of Nefertiti as I Am. These were channeled books, and they're designed that you can read them in one day. My other book, Decree and It Shall Be, can be read in one day when you're thirsting. The Age of Remembrance, the Divine I Am Presence of Selenite can be read in one day. Certain books can be read in one day. The only book that can't be read in one day is The Key to Life is Numerology, and my first book, Dancing in the Light of Divine Grace. Them are the two books nobody can read right now in one day. But the others were designed that way because if you can read it in one day, there is a part of you that was there, like I was there. And it just helps you to remember. See, the partner book, Companion, is the companion. And that's the gift. The companion book is, let me back state it, is the gift. Okay, see, you have them because you're connected to it. Gift is the wisdom. Now, what is unique is here's the thing about it. Anybody that gets those two books, it's triggered. Oh, thank you. Anybody that gets those books, the Nefertiti book and the Akhenaten book, it triggers your remembrance. See, those two books, everything in there was my remembrance of being with them. And I hadn't a clue that I was going to be writing that stuff. Akhenaten's been around me since 2006, and actually before then. Why? Because I remember talking to another woman who was a friend of mine and student of mine. I used to live on Long Island before I moved to New Jersey, and this was in what year was this? This was in 2003. And she had a very strong psychic eye. And she said, "There's a man standing around you. He's kind of dark complexion man, a little taller, but he's around you." And I thought it was maybe a Malachi. She said, "Nah, that's not him." So I went upstairs. I was in the basement of my older niece's home, who's now living in Arizona. Went up the stairs. I lit some candles, then I cut off the lights. Then I came downstairs, complete blackness. Saw this man come out the wall, turn and look at me, and telepathically he said, "Amenitin." Point at me, Amenitin. And I was like, wasn't afraid, but I was going like, who is this calling me that? Who is this calling me that? That was in 2003. Disappeared, come back later when I'm in New Jersey in 2006 and got stronger every moment. Kept getting stronger and stronger. So much that I used to sing his name. I used to go, "Who's that knocking at your door? Akhenaten. Who's that ringing your bell? Akhenaten." I would do that all the time. And the funniest thing is, if I sang it during a lightning storm, the whole place around me would light up. And I would think, I need to stop before I get hit by lightning. But it's amazing. That's how strong things were energetically. So we're supposed to take all these things. And it doesn't matter whether it's my books, somebody else's books you vibrate to. The first book, Dancing in the Light of Divine Grace, that book tells you how I got on the path, how my mother taught me a lot of these things. If I had known what she was really hinting at and getting to, I probably would have jumped in it, but I didn't have enough teachers around. And her friends, they were in Astara like she was, they were in the Rosicrucians like she was. And they had their own little group amongst them. If I had really understood back then to constantly go into Brooklyn, Midwood section of Brooklyn, and study with these people like I was supposed to, again, I think I'd be a little further down the line, but it wasn't meant to be. We get sidetracked by many things. Yeah, we have to study all of this stuff. It's amazing. I was a philosophy. I would have been a philosophy major in college if I wasn't an art major. And I remember I was failing philosophy till the philosophy teacher told me to meet with him one day in his office. He said, "Bring your book. Bring your first book on philosophy, the black one." Brought him the book. He said, "You should at least highlight things to keep them in mind." Well, I said, well, I did. I gave him my book. He showed me where I was highlighting the same exact things he highlighted. He said, "I just don't understand why you don't get it." And this is what I told him. I said, "Because I don't believe in this form of philosophy, but I know there is a philosophy that I'm connected to. I just don't know what it is, but I do know it has to do with spiritually oriented things." I said, "There are ministers in my family, but I'm not supposed to walk that path." Yeah, there are lot of Christian ministers in my family, on both sides of my family, father's and mother's side. But then I started Rosicrucian stuff, and I connected to that. Then I went into the Moorish Science Temple America. I felt connected to that. And then at some point, I left there. I was can't. There's nothing else for me to do here. There's nothing else for me to do here because no one is teaching what I know that they could be teaching me. But I was getting it anyway on my own. That's all. I was getting deeper into the numerology already by 10 years. Then I knew, okay, I'm on the right path. I just got to keep going. So I would call out into the ethers. Who am I supposed to meet now? Put them on my path. Make me see who they are. And I started to see them. I started to meet them. Oh God, I can sometimes I read, sometimes I stay awake down the middle of the night. Just what else am I supposed to do? That's all I've been doing really. Before this little incident happened at my complex, up to that. In fact, I told Brandon in a text today. I said, I think that thing happened for a reason, and the reason was it burned something out my way. Because now I'm like super clear. Sometimes I get up and I stumble literally around my apartment. I got all the lights on. I be stumbling in here. But guess what? My feet are moving faster. I'm seeing things that I normally wouldn't see before, that I used to see. In other words, I could look at my rug and I could see the fusion of two patterns come together on the rug. And I used to tease my friends in Long Island. I said, I think I'm on Akhenaten ship. I think I'm sitting in his chair and he don't want me to sit in it. I'm standing in his space. You don't want me to stand in it. You get out of that space. There's something going on, and I know there's something going on, and I'm gonna find it. But guess what? It ain't out here. It's in here. It's like people say, well, why don't you move out of those places and get a house? I don't want a house. I want to stay in an apartment. Why? Because I'm in my own space. I don't have to worry about someone coming over or people wanting to come over because I'm in this space and I can wake up in the middle of the night and come and watch something on the TV I'm supposed to watch. I use the screen and let the screen stay off and I gaze at it and it's like a black crystal ball and I'm seeing something else. And I got a crystal ball on my dresser somewhere. I realized taking a class where I teach meditation at my friend's class, a friend that runs the place, that I can read candle flames. Sometimes I just want to sit and watch and gaze at the flame and see what I see. But I used to do it before in the 70s and the 80s. Light a candle up and just gaze in. And can see the deity figure in the candle. There's so many things. I believe I have a book on palmistry, but it talks about the mudras, the hand mudras, and palmistry together. I've had this book now 5 years. I looked at it a few times, but I know I'm supposed to go back and study it differently. But one thing I do know, when I look at a hand and see how my fingers are spread out, right? When you see the pinky leaning away, it means communication may be something you do or not. That's me. Sometimes I feel like communicating ideas and sometimes I don't. But I see this is the Mercury finger. So I see this as a finger that I'm picking up information. I'm picking up signals in my hands. I can feel the electricity run through my body at certain times. Sometimes I don't go to sleep. Sometimes I stay up too long. I know my friend will pick me up tomorrow, 11 o'clock, 11:30. We get to the center. I teach my meditation class. Sometimes I don't get to bed until 2 o'clock because 3 o'clock I pray, but pray in a completely different way now. I just pray and with visualization. I just hold a thought, an image in my mind, and I put so much energy into it, color wise. Then I just release it and let it go. I'm at a completely I'm this meditation book that I'm going to come out with. I'm supposed to come out with it around 2024. I'm still working on different parts. I have a whole exercise in there that I'm going to talk about the frequency of using colors and what you can do with it in relationship to yourself. I'm going to talk about how you can, I'm going to talk a little bit more about selenite on a completely different level in that book. So there's going to be something about crystals in there. There's going to be something about colors in there. It's going to be something about sound in there, a completely different way. I know there's a base of 7 chapters, but there may be more than that. There's 7 ways of doing something in that book, that meditation book. And I understand while I'm teaching meditation at my friend's center and why I'm setting up these things for the young people, young relatives, nieces, and nephews. By the time I'm done setting up their stuff, it'll be in that book. Things that you can do to open yourself. Hey, Rose, how you doing? Things that you can do to open yourself and stay open. No, you're not hallucinating. You are really seeing energy. That's what's really going on. Our senses are getting heightened. So actually, when certain things happen around us, where if we didn't have the metaphysical, spiritual, occult understanding, the scriptural understanding of things, we would spaz out. But because we study along certain lines of information, even if we do it philosophically speaking, it allows us to experience it differently. That's what my ancestors want us to know tonight. See, like I say, I get more long winded. So I said this. I wanted to be on for 2 hours, but everybody's coming on because this is the time you always supposed to come on. So I'm gonna stay on a little longer. Turn this into a 3 hour thing, right? Because I got free time on my hands. But I know I'm beginning to understand now when certain things happen, while they're happening, we got to see them on a completely different level. When we see something on a different level, we get triggered, just like in Akhenaten's book. He says, the open door. The open door. Let me pull the book out. And let me read a segment. Let me read a segment. Because we have this information for a reason. I might have to get myself another book because the pages are going to fall out of mine in one day. What do I want to read? He says one chapter that he had, the second chapter, first chapter was silence, second chapter was the open door. So if we get into a thing where we can be in total silence, oh, very easy. They use tones. That's why sometimes we're not supposed to sometimes we're not supposed to be glued to our cell phones too much and to our TV sets. If we do, our TV sets, if we do, we should have a piece of this around. This is called shungite. You can get it in a flat circular form. You can get them so you can attach them to the back of your cell phones. These are this is an orgonite piece. I forgot who made this, but my friend who is my baby sister's son, I think he got this from someone and it has shards of selenite in it. All right, and these two different pieces are designed to deflect radiation coming through, and I keep one just to the right of the keyboard, and I keep this one behind it. But I got shungite sitting up on my bookshelf there. I have shungite in my bedroom because now I got an iPad over there, so I need the shungite to send it around. I got tons of selenite finger wands in my bedroom, and I got a big thigh bone one, I call it, on my altar in my bedroom. That's why I don't put a TV in there, okay? Because I don't want the TV rolling energy out. I got this, and I'm wearing some, and I'm wearing some lapis, and I'm also wearing moldavite. Moldavite is a good stone to take you on a whole nother journey, right? So we gotta now people say, you shouldn't use the gems to do this. Sometimes people tell you not to do things because they want to tune into you. I want to read something that Akhenaten had in here. And again, this entire book was channeled. And it was so funny. I used the word the gift, and I didn't realize it until I read my own first book that I read. My own book, my own first book. Okay. I'm going to read the segment. This is in this book, The Wisdom of Akhenaten as I Am. Chapter 67 was Akhenaten's spiritual transmission of divine grace as I am, the capital letters I am. And my ancestors, see the pages are falling out. I got to start using clips to hold these things together because I might have to get another book for myself. He says, and this is all channeled, beloved sons of the great central sun, this is a glorious moment in your journey back home into the palatial dimensions of the heart. He didn't say go out there. He said come into your heart. He said many of the souls who assisted you, along with those who chose to officiate. Now check this out. This is Akhenaten. Many of the souls who assisted you, along with those who chose to officiate as parents, grandparents, siblings, relatives, life partners, friends, teachers, and so-called enemies, became catalysts for each other's ascension. Do your meditations in such a manner so that you can remain an open door. That was chapter 2 of his book. While in absolute silence, which was chapter 1 of this book, so that you can quote unquote travel with a ascended consciousness that is always transcending. So your consciousness is what? Ascending and then changing form. By engaging yourself in this practice as a way of life, you will always deeply expand and grow, which brings forth further healing, wholeness, and a more purified reality of living as a divine celestial being. As the cobra is ascending from within you, so are you ascending in your environment. Everyone is utilizing different metaphysical, magical, spiritual tools to activate themselves and change the terrain of Mother Gaia's matrix and their own physical forms simultaneously. Everyone is a part of the ascension process, either through small and large groups, or individually doing the work. Some will choose to remain within the 3D doing the work. Some will choose to remain within the 3D, but that will feel more like self imprisonment. And they will soon realize that it is best to prepare oneself to move forward. Gaia. has been a location in which to uncover and recover yourselves. We all are anchors for each other, which means we hold space for each other to evolve. But many get caught by their own tantalizing miscreations, which is, he calls in chapter 3, the ego, only because they think they are to rule over others. They cause others to think and love themselves less so that they get them to do their biddings like slaves on Gaia and even in other locations. That's from this book. When I'm on page That's from this book. When I'm on page 68. There's a special core group of you that will ascend and then return to free others as well. So we wonder, like, how do I get back here? Why am I here? You came back here to reawaken back here and then free others. There is no Pacific mission that is higher or lower because they all are fueled through unconditional love, harmonic peace, and compassion. Everything we do is about awareness and remembrance of who we truly are being within every moment of our ascension into the infinite realms of divine grace. We are always one heart, and just because others are appearing to lag behind us, this does not mean that they will not rise into the understanding of their true self. We are always seeking our purpose, our divine purpose. Everyone is doing the same. Meaning that everybody around us, even though they're not doing it in the way that we're doing it or the way that others are doing it, in their own level of understanding, they're doing it. They may not see, they may not be on the same path with you, but they are nearby, moving along another path of awareness and remembrance. You see? And then he says in capital letters, all of us have worn masks, but now we are all taking off our masks so that we can assist in the rise, ascension through awareness and remembrance back into our eternal and infinite selves. I remember a person read my book a couple of years ago, and this person was into conspiracy stuff and QAnon stuff. And they read this passage and they said, you weren't channeling Akhenaten, you were channeling Trump. And I said, oh no, I wasn't. He's not the Messiah. He might be your Messiah, but he is not the Messiah of the true, infinite, divine source. It wasn't that mask. It was the mask that we all realize that we carry. So it says, ascension through awareness and remembrance back into our eternal and infinite selves. No one cared in the ancient times to understand what Nefertiti and I, meaning Akhenaten, saw, because they did not see with a single eye. Let me reread that. He said, no one cared in the ancient times to understand what Nefertiti and I saw, because they did not see with a single eye. What single eye is he talking about? In brackets, he says, awakened eye of the cobra, that which was eternal. They were too busy striving to be an oracle of knowing for those who came to them. He's talking about the Amun priesthood, Amun priesthood. You know who's doing that now? That's done in the Catholic churches. You got to go there and say all the Hail Marys and give all that confession to someone who might be doing something that's not even correct. They might be doing something else, but they're taking your energy, your innocence. They were too busy striving to be an oracle of knowing. An oracle just meaning like a prophet of knowing for those who came to them. They spent too much time changing what they had received. I mean, the priesthood received things that they were supposed to give directly to the people, but they weren't. They were getting that information, pulling out information, keeping it for themselves, and giving what's left over. He said they spent too much time changing what they had received and then diluting it to fit their personal desires, to preside with their miscreated egos over the people. Beloved sons of the infinite, immortal, great central sun, we, meaning he and Nefertiti, came to help you all remember your pure essence is your own divinity. Your pure essence is your own divinity. These words within these leaves are not just a manual that reveals the remembrance of the electromagnetic dance of the cobra, but seed words we planted in you eons ago, which you are now revealing in your own way. So every time you reveal something, every time you speak something, you're liberating yourself. This is the time to bring forth your beloved seeds, just like a Menitan, that was what they called me, and then keep moving forward. Page 70. Just like a mother is excited when her child begins to walk with confidence and strength. I am, which is in capital letters, is excited that you are all sharing and expanding your divinity. The great shift that moves us all closer to our divinity is the revelation that we are all celestial beings by nature. One must use their courage to move forward and their willingness to be a pioneer. Pioneer, another word, is trailblazer. Blaze the trail. You are the light. Light it up. Our life streams within the matrix of Gaia have never been easy, for we arrived here with the intention of raising its frequency to a higher level of prominence in the collective presence of all while overcoming other obstacles. In other words, somewhere down the line before we got here, we all came together as beings of light and said, we're going to do this, 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 set up this roadblock, break through here. Oh, I'm going to block you for a moment, hopefully pushing you just enough to create tension. Boom, that you explode into that. But it's hard to remember all of that. So much going on. Our streams, yes, for we arrived here with the intention, higher level of prominence in the collective presence, overcoming all of these obstacles. You are all successful. They're saying you're successful already, all successful in your own way. So hold your heads high. What they're saying is we already did it. We just didn't realize we did it yet. And keep yourself interlaced with the remembrance of your crystalline energies within your petals of light, through the heart, through the throat, through the solar plexus, through the kidneys, through the lungs, through the brow center, through the crown, both sides of the brain, both sides of the temple, base of the skull, radiating through the center of your palms, through the balls of your feet, through your tailbone. Constant energy, constant. So here's a poetic phrase that he says, page 70 to 71. In this book, he says, beloved sons of I am. Take this as a meditation if you can. Beloved sons of I am. We are all one in this very moment. We are all in the state of absolute remembrance of our divinity. Our living light codes are revealing the infinite truths. And we are now coming together as one I am. We all desired this, and we decided to reveal, release, and uplift ourselves as one. This element has been called Gaia is alive. Gaia is not dead. We might call it Sophia, not dead, is alive and feels our presence. This element is eager to feel all ascend. The presence of I am within its core chamber is eager to feel all transcend. This I am presence's core chamber exists within the great central sun. Beloveds, we have always been both here and there within the great central sun. In other words, we're in both of them at the same time. We just decide to flip the switch. We are we are the dawning of the new age. We are calling upon ourselves, quote unquote, calling upon ourselves to return home. We are returning to the great Aten, the great central sun. All parts of our soul are moving across life streams. I'm going to stop here for a second. If you have the fire stick um, in there, search for inner worlds and outer worlds. Inner worlds and outer worlds talk about the Akasha, and in the same episode, it's going to give you three parts. And the third part, it's going to mention Akhenaten, and it's going to show you the papyrus where he's reaching up toward the rays of the sun. And they're going to say the same thing that's in here. They're going to mention he's talking about the consciousness of the great central sun, and he was connected to it. Amazing. So, get back here. All parts of our soul are moving across the streams. All parts of our soul. And the blue and gold flames are braided together as one. The path of the cobra is real, and so is the great central sun. The ancients from Atlantis and Lemuria have come again, reuniting with all of us as one. You're going to be okay, sister. He says, now we shall rise and fly into our chambers in the great central sun. He says, if you focus on the great central sun, you'll find yourself in the palatial palace that you have already set up there. And you go into it and pull that energy out and create a healing force in your life. It's no accident in the first movie, The Avatar. They are experiencing the Avatar, right, which is taller. But they're doing it from what? A chamber on the ship. The one guy, right? He goes into the ship. He sits in that box and he dreams the world as an avatar. We do the same. We go to sleep at night or go to sleep during the daytime and boom, go into the zone. It's 11:49. Okay, so 11, master number 11, 49 is a 13. 13 is power and dominion. 11, over your dreams. So he says here, as brother and sister sons, we now celebrate. He calls us a son. As brother and sister sons, we now celebrate as the divine masculine passes on the golden flame and the blue flame scepter to the divine feminine. and they shall walk together as a family of one, beloved sons of the great I am, within the great central sun. The great central attend is blessed. So you become this blessed being. And his last chapter talks about the blue flame, the gift of the blue flame. And I'll just say, I'll pick a spot out. He says in this, he says, pay attention to the cadence of your breath. In another part, he says, this beautiful flame within you and outside of you is coming from inside of you because it is an integral part of the cells and the memory of the cells within the DNA itself. We are simply calling it forward, meaning invoking it from within yourself. He says, and I underline, you are not calling it from any other place. In fact, it is not a place as it is and has always been a part of you. It's always a part of you. It is your true self revealing itself. He says, the gift of the blue flame is the same current of energy that the cobra takes, but instead of feeling the gold and the blue cobras, we see them braided together as one current of life force energy within you. He's just hinting, he's just laying it out. And he tells you what to use to help you feel the energy. He says, get a selenite rod, should be approximately 12 inches to 24 inches long, if possible, or a selenite wand, 6 to 12 inches. And he basically tells you to lay it on yourself. He says here, and I sum it up, the blue flame is the divine presence of the great central sun as I am. That's who the blue flame is. So it's in these books, channeled information that I didn't even know I was going to write about. There's so much. I'm going to release some more. And I say, I'm thinking about coming on Saturday night and popping some more information out. I need to listen to this myself. I need to probably pop off with the book The Gift and put that out. That's Nefertiti's book. She kind of takes off from where Akhenaten left off. And she takes us through a whole journey as well. Well, thank you for joining me. I'm glad I stayed on longer than 2 hours. Many of you were able to pop on here. If you have any questions, send your questions to this email address. This is almost 3 hours long, so I'm going to put here myself replay. I also made this live chat, so that it will repeat itself when you replay it. So when you replay this whole 2 hours and 52, almost 3 hours, you'll see the full conversation. And what you'll be able to do is, you'll be able to leave me a comment and I'll be able to answer it. But you can also send your comment to my email address. That way I can lay out more information, because sometimes when we put information on here, and I'm going to start saying this more often, when we put information on here, there's a lot of other people that come through and read this. You know, you wonderful sisters aren't the only ones that are reading this information. YouTube is up in here too, reading this. And certain other people with the bots and stuff want to come in here and be disruptive. I noticed Mr. Bot didn't get in here this time because I had to report him several times. The person that kept putting that in here. But I say that because we're being tested by others. And oh, well, your karmic connection to your boss, you are the boss. And maybe if I look at the letters differently, yeah, thank you. Let's see if I got something else here. I should be. This was a German guy that had a lot of information. What boss is, the word itself. This is just one side of things. Let's see from what chapter I'm pulling this from. Well, he has a lot of information. But check this out. The letter boss, the letter B, leads one to become absolute master of the electromagnetic fluid into the material world, and furthermore to redress and to redress any disharmony in the human body or physical world, to cure any disease, to become master over life and death in the material world, to control all four kingdoms of the mineral, vegetable, animal, and human. That's the letter B. Then the letter O is analogous to the electromagnetic fluid in the human body, but also influences higher spheres when used in astrophysics. Yeah, yeah, but completely different. This the letter O produces good fortune and success in the material world with regard to all undertakings. The letter S, everything connected with the control of one's consciousness in the material world, be it sleep, hypnosis, anesthesia, and other invasions of consciousness, is analogous to this letter. The letter S is also the flip side of the letter K, and the letter K is another side of the letter G. So S, which is the serpentine energy, is very much like the letter K, which deals with wealth and prosperity in the material world, and the letter G has to do with increase, riches, and prosperity in the material world. That's just a whole nother understanding of how words and phrases and things are being utilized. This guy was able to put these letters on different planes, on akasha, mental, and physical. For instance, the letter B in the akashic realm, in the akashic principle, the letter B indicates the perception of universal life. Furthermore, it indicates the cognition of polarity in all forms of existence, which will lead to the most profound wisdom. With the letter B, the Kabbalist will learn to comprehend fully the plus and the minus, and will become quite clear to him or her that nothing has been created in vain, and that the negative as well as the positive must exist. For without these opposites, one could not be differentiated from the other. It's a powerful book. B is dealing with divine providence in the mental world. In the astral world, it deals with polarity and the mysteries of things and the power of words. And in matter or the physical plane, it's the law of polarization on earth in matter itself. That's just the letter B. So there's a lot of stuff up here. I might have to start carrying that book around. I want to thank you all for joining me this evening. And as I think I'll come back here. I'm going to put a reminder for myself. I will come back Saturday, December 17th. Here we go again. Letters being small. And this is going to be 7 p.m. Mountain, which is 9 p.m. Eastern. I'm looking to do that. Come on in one more time. Woo! A lot to release and share. So thank you all for popping on here with me whenever you did. Again, email me all of this information. Uh, any questions, just email me. I'm always going through my email to answer things. And it's important now. You know, what is it? Have the will to live, the will to release, the will to evolve, the will to comprehend, the will to be compassionate, to be more in the light of grace itself, to be non judgmental, especially with ourselves, because we're all growing all the time. And those of us like myself who's a teacher, I got to release it. I can't hold on to it anymore. I got to let it go. Is that pour out the glass so more stuff can come in, right? So have a good night wherever you are in the United States of America, as they say. But most of all, where you are in the consciousness of your own divinity. Remember, we are the celestial beings within the great central sun that we travel in and out of consciously all the time. And allow that to be an exercise for yourself if you can. Allow, envision yourself, see yourself going in and out of the great central sun, going into the places part of your own heart, which is the great central sun, to go within there to see what you can find out more about yourself and see what you need to see about yourself. And I said in here earlier, when you replay this is something my cousin put up. My cousin's in Atlanta. He's the one that owns Onyx Con, who I wore a jersey. I might wear it tomorrow night for him and his dad. But it's amazing. He said it was called the Nilotic people. And I put it in here earlier. They are the tallest people from the Sudan all the way into northern Kenya, southern Sudan into northern Kenya. These people are called Nilotic people. They are the tallest people in Africa. So that means they must be taller than the Maasai people. You know, the Maasai people are pretty tall. He said the tall Avatar beings are based on our people out of Africa, out of that region. So it's just more things being revolved. No accident, the movie Wakanda hit again real big. A lot more information. As they say, the gods are coming back, and they're called us. So it's an amazing journey to be alive at this time, to get this information, to see it, reveal it. But I also feel when we understand it, we will create greater healing on Mother Gaia. We will be able to establish greater healing energy. It's amazing. All right, everybody. My grace is your grace. Until next time, remember that divine grace is a blessing as we're alive and well in the age of remembrance. I am going to come on. I have to leave a note on my computer that I'm going to come on tomorrow night, which is December 17th at 7 p.m. my time. Maybe I might try to come on earlier. Maybe I'll come on at 6, but I'll put it out there. I'll try to remember to put an email out to all of you that popped on here. So if I come on at 6, it'll be what? 8 p.m. for all y'all, so you can get it earlier. Anyway, you'll be able to replay it, okay? Take care now. See you soon, like tomorrow.